Air Pirates was started by a guy named Gary Larkins who started recovering aircraft back in the 70s, and it just sort of picked up a nickname of Air Pirates on one of the projects he did. A newspaper reporter actually dubbed him an air pirate, and the name just sort of stuck. Air Pirates, what they do is go and recover aircraft that have crashed or been abandoned through the years. Most of the aircraft are either donated or purchased by collectors or museums. There's about half a dozen of us. For most of us, it's just a part-time sort of thing. We go whenever there's a project. Gary does it full-time. That's what he's made his livelihood out of. I got involved with Gary in the 80s. He came to Maryland to look for some aircraft, and me and a couple other guys hit it off really well, and we've been with him ever since. Started off just recovering aircraft underwater for Gary, being a diver, and he needed the assistance of some salvage divers. But now it's turned into anytime there's aircraft that somebody wants, we go in and get them. The exotic locations, the easy aircraft to get, the ones that are easily found and easily recovered, most of those are gone. So the aircraft that are left are farther out or harder to get to, deeper in the ocean, in the Arctic region or Antarctic region, some of the South Pacific islands and those types still have some aircraft. Air Pirates have recovered over 69 aircraft. Some of those locations would include Greenland, Thailand, all over Southeast Asia. There have been aircraft recovered in the United States, Hawaii, Alaska, other than the continental United States, Fiji, Guam, Australia. I believe he's done some aircraft in Australia. Really all over the world. There were in Europe. There's a great many Allied and enemy or foreign aircraft that were recovered throughout Europe that Gary's been involved in. I've personally been involved in about 12 recoveries. And when I say recovery, that's when we actually physically recover an aircraft. We've done searches for many more than that. We've searched for hundreds of aircraft, and we may find the remains of the aircraft, and the buyer or the museum determines that they're not worth salvaging, in which case we don't. We leave them. That's not counted as a recovery. When I say we've recovered over 69 aircraft, we've actually physically brought those aircraft back for restoration. Been involved in many more searches and recoveries that just weren't deemed to be worthwhile. To salvage an aircraft and to do it properly, anybody can go and pull a piece of metal out of the ground or out of the ice or from under the water, but to do it without damaging the environment or damaging what it is that you're trying to recover any more than it is, there's an art to it. There's a way to do it. Not everybody can do that. Gary has, over the years, learned through trial and error, and I've learned from him. We did a project in Lake Murray, South Carolina, a couple of years ago. That was a deep water dive. We recovered basically an intact B-25 Liberator. That was memorable because the aircraft was basically all together. It hadn't scattered or been broken up. We've done some aircraft in Alaska, that very remote part of Alaska, that was donated to a museum. Done up in Lake Michigan. We've done some projects, a lot of stuff in the South Pacific. Typically there aren't the resources we would take for granted, that are easily available, cranes, forklifts, those types of things. A lot of the work is done by hand, using come-alongs or winches or, rigging devices for lifting and moving heavy objects. It's usually long hours. When we're on a recovery, we usually start and we work until the recovery is done. That can can be 3 or 4 or 5 days, sometimes with a break in the middle, sometimes not. It just the circumstances and the environment will dictate how you work on a particular project. Every project is different. There's always something doesn't go the way you plan it, so you have to improvise and adapt. A piece of machinery or equipment either doesn't show up or it breaks. The environment sometimes can be brutal. I've been to Greenland 3 times on 3 different airplane recovery projects, and the weather can play a huge factor in what you're able to do. We were in Greenland during a hurricane, and they don't call them hurricanes up there, monsoon, or actually it wouldn't even be a monsoon. But it was a pretty savage storm for 3 days, and it was everything we could do just to stay on the island. We were living on a small island in tents, and the tents kept getting flattened and destroyed, and our supplies were blown across the island, and the weather would let up for a little bit. We'd go gather everything back up, and then the storm would kick back in, and it would just blow us off again. So that can be challenging, but it's rewarding. It's enjoyable. There's a great group of guys that I've been involved with, in addition to Gary Larkins, and we work well together. We have fun.